It seems like it's over now. I hope you all survived the crash well and took the opportunity to buy more. Now we have some major background factors, short positions that were opened, and now there are accusations of manipulation. But we also have a very clear signal from the Federal Reserve, which is now saying, hey, we need to take countermeasures, we need to lower interest rates now. That means the Federal Reserve is commenting on the whole situation. We also have Scott Bassett, who says we need to take extraordinary measures to ensure market stability. We'll take a look at what's behind these statements. The Nobel Peace Prize winner, who's now a Bitcoiner, which is totally crazy. And I'll also tell you why this whole shakeout wasn't actually so bad for Bitcoin, and how, in the long run, it might even put us on a much, much better foundation. Before we dive in, you'd be doing me a huge favor if you could take a second and smash the like button below. Think Bitcoin prices, new all-time highs. As a little thank you, let me show you this Pokemon card here. The orange Wizard of the Cell with 6 stars, instantly cutting your portfolio in half. That's the big strength. Also, it's really important to take this in. Here's James Lavish with an important emergency announcement. Haha, no, Bitcoin isn't dead and it's not dying either. It's just flushing out all the degenerate, short-term driven, leveraged momentum players from the market and turns it into a much healthier and stronger base. Long-term investors are enjoying all of this. I wish you all a great weekend. And that's what I meant when I said that in the long run, it was really, really good for Bitcoin that this market clearing, this market cleansing, and so on took place. And I also saw that some people bought in quite a bit. I hope you were among them too. Let me know in the comments below if you bought the dip. And if we just compare it, it's still a ridiculous dip. Back in 2012, no, 12 years ago, so today 12 years ago, or roughly 12 years ago, Bitcoin crashed 50% in 6 hours down to $120. And after that, Bitcoin pumped back up to $1,175. So like I said, when you zoom out, it's really not that bad. But if you're zoomed in super close on the hourly candle, it looks pretty rough. Yeah, maybe on the 4-hour chart, it's not quite as bad. If you look at it on the weekly chart, it actually looks pretty okay again. Monthly chart looks even better. If we zoom all the way out, it's completely irrelevant what happened here. This is interesting too. Samson Morbid Binance caused the drop from 122,000 to 102,000. That's a double red God candle right here. Just think of it as training for a double red Omega breakout or Omega drop here from 1 million to 800,000, which of course could very likely happen at some point sooner or later. There were all kinds of different data. Different exchanges reported different things here. And if you look at it from the other side, we also had, bam, another God candle shooting up by $12,000 in 2 hours, depending on which exchange you measured it from. So, as I said, some exchanges even dropped almost down to the $100,000 mark. That's a really important fact that many people don't understand. Every exchange has its own price. There isn't just one Bitcoin price. There are a lot of prices determined in a decentralized way. On one exchange, the price can sometimes be a bit higher than on another or lower. Now we also have the official numbers here. Roughly 9 billion. Sorry, yes, about 9 billion are being liquidated here. And just for the backstory, for people who haven't seen the videos yet, all of this was triggered by Donald Trump because he's bringing the trade conflict back into play. It recovered a bit because now he might want to meet with the Chinese president after all. But as we saw, after the recovery, there was another small dip downwards. But now we're more or less stable here at 112,000 US dollars. If there aren't any more major announcements here, we'll probably just move sideways for a bit. And then next week is going to be very, very interesting when Wall Street weighs in, when the traditional markets react, how the treasury companies respond, and much more. Here's also a very interesting assessment from Kobe Zaleta, who actually presented this in a TV interview. Here's the harsh reality. Ahead of President Trump's announcement to impose 100% tariffs on China, the markets were looking for a catalyst for a pullback. Leverage was enormous, and we hadn't seen a drop of more than 2% in the S&P 500 for 6 months. Trump's post would become the reason for the sell-off in an otherwise still broad upward trend. The fact that within 24 hours a record amount of almost 20 billion US dollars in cryptocurrencies was liquidated, again, a different number here, everywhere we see different numbers, is clear evidence that leverage went through the roof. Fear and greed are the strongest emotions in the market. The scales had tipped too far toward the latter. So this is a market correction, and it brings us to a better level here. And now, there was something interesting here as well. I actually suspected it just yesterday. You can still watch yesterday's videos and this morning's, that there were players here who may have manipulated things. Someone placed a massive short just 30 minutes before Donald Trump's entire announcement, and now they're 88 million in profit. And when you take on such big leverage here, sometimes you might have insider information. We just don't know right now whether that's really the case, whether it's insider information or not. But it does look a bit suspicious. And I actually suspected it yesterday and even said that there were probably people who took big short positions here who had insider information. But like I said, we don't know for sure. And now it's getting really, really interesting. What's positive here is that the Federal Reserve is speaking up. Here, Stephen Miron, a Fed representative, open up a pillar leeway for interest rate cuts. He says very clearly here, while the U.S. Federal Reserve is struggling with the right pace for rate cuts, Trump's new Fed guy, Stephen Miron, is calling for a radical loosening. His reasoning: tariffs and the immigration stop have lowered the neutral interest rate base, thus opening the door wide for cheaper loans. This Stephen Miron is also a Bitcoiner and is also he is a big supporter of interest rate cuts in general. He's simply one of the Trump team. And of course, he now wants to use this situation to push through his own interests as well as those of Donald Trump. We can also see here that a lot of things have happened exactly as Donald Trump wanted. That means this crash could very well have been triggered deliberately. Here, the price of oil is below $95 per barrel for the first time since May. The yield on 10-year bonds has dropped by 10 basis points to 4.05%. Natural gas prices have fallen by 5% to new monthly lows. Copper prices have dropped by 5%, the biggest decline since July. The Fed is now expected to cut interest rates 3 times in 2025, and now that's looking even more likely. The S&P 500 is still up more than 32% over the past 6 months. So, is the trade war fulfilling all of Trump's goals at once? Well, it's just like I said several months ago, that there's obviously an agenda being pushed through here. And it looks like this agenda is going to be pushed through completely. But now we also have some really good news. Check this out. A Nobel Peace Prize winner is a Bitcoiner. She talks about Bitcoin and now she's getting the Nobel Peace Prize. Now take a look at this.
Insanely bullish. The 2025 Nobel Peace Prize. What is this about Bitcoin?
Bitcoin bypasses government-imposed exchange rates and thus helps many of our people. It has evolved from a humanitarian tool to a vital means of resistance. We are grateful for the lifeline Bitcoin provides and look forward to embracing it in a new democratic Venezuela. We envision Bitcoin as part of our national reserves, helping rebuild what the dictatorship stole. Before gold reserves were plundered, Venezuela had wealthy financial reserves worldwide. We will restore those reserves and include Bitcoin as a key component.
I think Bitcoin is going to make a
So she's even going so far as to say that Venezuela will add Bitcoin to its reserves because Bitcoin, especially for struggling countries, for people in difficult situations where people are unbanked and so on, it's just an absolutely fantastic tool. And now she's won the Nobel Peace Prize. We're seeing more and more positions being held by Bitcoiners. Now we have Bitcoiners in the Federal Reserve, Nobel Peace Prize winners who are Bitcoiners, which makes sense. I mean, Bitcoin is peace money. Of course, the Nobel Peace Prize winner is a Bitcoiner. On the other hand, there are still bullish tendencies coming from the USA. Here, Scott Bassett says the US Treasury is ready to take extraordinary measures at any time to stabilize the markets, to ensure market stability. What he means by that is not that they're reacting to the crash right now, but rather it's still about the story with the bailout of Argentina, which is the next thing. The US just bails out random countries, prints new money. But there was also a lot of criticism. Hey, why are they bailing out random countries? They should rather use that money to buy Bitcoin. On the other hand, there are some bold moves here. Trent Cardone posted right when the dip happened and all that. You can see it here too. He just posted that they bought 300 Bitcoin. Cardone Capital adds another 300 Bitcoin to its real estate Bitcoin hybrid. The real estate machine allows us to use the monthly cash flow to place purchase orders below market price and then wait for the market to fill the order. So if I'm seeing this right, they're aiming to create up to 1.3 trillion in Bitcoin value here. And if you need a little motivation right now and have forgotten why we're all here in the first place, then please watch this video here. This is from the Bitcoin Policy Institute. This is Alex Gladstein from the Human Rights Foundation.
87% or so of the people on this planet live in a place where they either have a collapsing economy with a terrible fiat currency or an authoritarian regime.
72% of the world's population live under some sort of autocratic regime.
Our bank accounts were frozen, our funds seized, and financial censorship became just another tool the Russian regime used to silence us.
Our bank accounts were frozen, and his organization was confiscated. 85% of the Afghan population didn't trust the bank.
Hear people say, well, there's no use case for Bitcoin. It's money that dictators can't stop.
they don't have a bank account, but they can simply get paid if they have a wallet. Activists that have been suffering repressions are now being helped that this technology that is Bitcoin.
It's not about making profit, it's about survival.
Of course, we can also make profits, but the point here at the end is it's not about making profits, it's about survival. That means if humanity doesn't switch to Bitcoin here, if humanity can't recognize this, then humanity will destroy itself because fiat money is made for us to slaughter each other. That might sound like an exaggeration, but fiat is war money, Bitcoin is peace money. If we really want to trigger a shift in consciousness here, if we really want to reach the next level of awareness as humanity, then we have to take the step toward free, decentralized, independent money. And if we as humanity can't manage that, then we're simply going to face a lot of problems. And it all starts with the individual. Each of you can start now, buy Bitcoin now, set up your own hardware wallet, do different things. Some customers even have a link to address your hardware wallet, and there's still a discount at the Bitcoin Hotel. But if we manage to do this, then an awesome future is ahead of us if we really make this move to Bitcoin. And for that, we probably still need a whole lot, even pain that we have to go through. People just don't learn by thinking or intelligence, but often only through pain. And that's why, I'm really, really glad that Bitcoin is here. Let me know in the comments how you see it. And if you still want to buy Bitcoin, there's a link to 21 Bitcoin below, where you can buy Bitcoin easily, safely, and simply. By the way, you can also set limit orders there and just snap up tips like this in the future. See you next time. Peace out.